Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.
Every presidential election year, black professionals gather for the Black Congress on Health, Law, and Economics. Up front today, we'll take a look at the Black Congress and what it sees as the key issues impacting the black community in 1984. In our one-to-one segment, Genevieve Stewart talks to State Representative Joe Delpit about everything ranging from politics to chicken. Last week, it was Zydeco. This week, we go classical, as we feature the musical talents of tenor Clarence Carter and pianist Wilfred Delphin. Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Hinton. We'll have those stories today on Folks.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Those who live, both got to give, both got to care, both got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, who touches us all? To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Every 4 years, Democrats and Republicans from all across the country gather together to talk politics, but they aren't the only ones. Up front today, we're going to tell you about a group of black professionals who have come together to do the same thing. The group calls itself the Black Congress on Health, Law, and Economics. It's a growing federation consisting right now of 6 national organizations: the National Bar Association, the National Black Nurses Association, the National Optometric Association, the National Pharmaceutical Association, the National Podiatry Association, and the Black Caucus of Health Workers. These groups organized the Black Congress back in 1976, recognizing the need for black professionals to reach a consensus on key issues impacting the black community.
The first conference was held in Dallas, Texas in 1980. It was so successful that there was a mandate by those attending, approximately 12,000 persons, that the Black Congress should convene every 4 years. This represents the second quadrennial meeting of the Black Congress on Health, Law, and Economics here in New Orleans.
The Congress featured workshops on subjects ranging from health care to civil rights. The keynote speaker at this year's convention was Jesse Jackson. He commended the founding organizations for their efforts.
I am delighted that you have had the good judgment to come together and begin to have a Congress or conventions at the same time. That's a major step in the right direction. But surely you must know that it is just one step in a 1,000-mile journey. It's not enough to just come together, as significant as it is, because in coming together, you establish the most basic link in civilization, communication. The fact that when we leave here, the presidents of these organizations, we're going to meet periodically and have conference calls and share in news direct with each other. That's a major step in the right direction. But when you consider there must be another level of political empowerment and economic empowerment to grow out of this.
2 key issues stressed at the convention were economic parity and political clout. The man who stressed those issues the loudest was Dennis Archer, president of the National Bar Association.
We do not, as black professionals, we have not yet come together in a manner that I think we can to help each other. We have got a unique opportunity to refer each other business. There's no reason why people who are in my office or in my brother and sister council office do not go to black doctors, There's no reason why that our employees do not go and see a black podiatrist. We all seems to go with the territory some feet problems from time to time. And when we need our eyes checked, what makes the white doctor, a white optometrist, he have better lens or better glasses? I don't think so. We have got to learn to work together. If we begin to work together in our own community, what we will do is to help us employ more people from within the black community and take them off the unemployment roll, and we can then reach back and help others to get into our profession. I am tired of going around the country and hearing the same conversation about the temptation to flip into Richard Pryor, you know? To hear the same okey doke about, well, you know, I'd like to hire, you know, we have really been looking to find some black lawyers, but we just can't find anyone qualified. Well, what do you mean by qualified? Well, what we mean, Guy, is that we want somebody to graduate out of the top 10 law schools and on law review and order of a coif. Well, that's fine. Well, do all of your lawyers have that same qualification when they come to your firm? Aren't you tired in your profession hearing, well, they're fine, but you know, we're just not qualified. We're trying to bring somebody in, but just not qualified. Or as you try to advance in the hospital, or you try to advance wherever you happen to be, well, we're just not qualified. Well, that's wrong.
We in the black community have, as black professionals, not reached out to each other. We can do that, I think, and form a very good economic base and learn to flip the dollar within our own black community several times before we get our paycheck and run immediately to the suburban areas or run immediately someplace else and not going to a black car dealer to buy a car, or at least giving that black car dealer an opportunity to sell us a car so we can compare costs. Cleaners, why not give the black cleaner the same opportunity? What makes the person who sells meat over the counter, who happens to be a black person who owns a store, what makes his meat not taste as tender as somebody else's meat? Do you follow what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about, and so that with the healthcare professionals, black doctors, black lawyers, the podiatrists and dentists, why not all of us begin to send our respective office personnel or clients or people that come to us who need assistance to learn again to flip that dollar and to work with each other.
And here's what Archer had to say about political clout.
I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to suggest that if you cannot see the wisdom in looking at, well, let me try to help bring it right back to where we all are. I watched on national television the other morning, and I saw the President of the United States, who described, by not making names or mentioning names, two people who were the President and Vice President nominee for the Democratic Party, who were so far left that they have left America. Now, the people of which he spoke, understand something now, the people of which he spoke, one was a former Vice President of the United States, the other, a two-term United States Congresswoman. If he thinks that little of those white Americans, what then does he think about you?
Blacks have a tendency to vote in a higher proportion than our white majority counterpart. That is to say, a higher percentage of the total registered black vote will vote in an election in much higher numbers. Therefore, we have the incentive and desire to indeed to go out and register, and then we will ultimately vote. The reason why it's important in this election is that blacks can make a difference in terms of the presidential election. In approximately 13 states, there were a significant number of votes difference between President Reagan and President Carter last time that could have swung the difference in those 13 states. I'm not saying that President Carter would have won. I'm just simply saying that President Reagan would not have won those states if, for example, the black citizens there who were even registered would in fact come out and vote. And there are those blacks who were not registered even those numbers, if we registered a portion of them, would make the difference in a national election. Black Americans do not have sufficient votes on our own as a majority to put anybody into office on a national basis. But we do have a significant number, a good cadre that in a close election we can make the difference between who wins the United States presidency in 1984.
And in a future report, we'll be talking to representatives from the National Black Nurses Association, one of the organizations that participates in the Black Congress. Our one-to-one report today features a man who is well known in Louisiana political circles and has been a guest on Folks several times. He's Joe Delpit of Baton Rouge, and here to tell us more about him is Genevieve Stewart. Genevieve?
Rob, State Representative Joe Delpit and Speaker Pro Tem of the House has been described as everything from an ideal man of the people to a controversial nemesis, depending upon whom one is talking to. Well, recently, Joe rolled up his sleeves at one of his chicken shack restaurants and talked. We began by asking him what he would do differently in life if given the opportunity.
I guess I wouldn't have given my mother so much trouble coming up as a youngster and having her worry about me. I guess I would take up more time with my kids. I enjoy my grandbaby so much now. And I wish that I would have had the time to give my own children as that I give to my grandchild now.
Nepotism. That is a charge that has been leveled against you many times. Does it hurt since it's implicating members of your family?
It doesn't bother me at all that I have great people in my family, and I'm very happy that if, in fact, I can influence anybody, that I am helping somebody who I feel is extremely competent. At no time, however, have I ever supported anyone that was incompetent. I don't recall ever having any of my children on the city payroll. I think it was my daughter-in-law who at one time may have worked in a clerical position, but soon found better employment on her own. And I did call and ask to help her. I've always been under the philosophy, if you don't help your own family, that you certainly won't help anybody else. And I will help anybody that I can help. And I will certainly help my family. They aren't excluded out of whatever little influence I may have.
Delpit thinks that being outspoken is an asset, but his frankness has also been considered controversial.
Yes, there's controversy, and there's, I guess, in everybody's life. I guess I am outspoken, and I've been blessed by that. I think that the Emancipation Proclamation means something to me. It means that I am free to express myself, and I thank God for that opportunity, and I thank the people who have put me in these elected offices, that I'm able to serve them with them not worrying about me speaking what they really want to come out. I'm not worried about that because, you know, I'm not on anybody's payroll other than the people's payroll. They pay taxes, I get my check, they buy my chicken, then I get my check. So I'm not on anybody's payroll. I'm somewhat independent in that respect, and I thank God for it, and I thank the people for it.
You're not afraid to take a stand on issues, sometimes emotionally. What makes you angry?
Basically, when I can see and feel a person representing a great form of hypocrisy, that makes me angrier than anything else in the world. And I see it so often. And I guess that's why I get angry so often.
Delpit is co-owner of a chain of fast food chicken restaurants in Baton Rouge. There are plans in the making to change the exteriors to an Acadian-style cabin. This will allow more inside seating and drive-through windows to increase the volume of sales. Franchise operations are also in his business projections. What's your favorite food?
Chicken.
Okay, let's talk chicken.
All right. I'm working mostly in the area of the franchising of the businesses, and I'm making contact with businesses throughout, people rather, throughout the nation, and letting them know about our franchising opportunities. This is really just in the early stages, and certainly a lot more that we have to do to really get this thing moving, but there have been a number of inquiries already about the franchising end. So hopefully we'll end up with, within the next 5 years, at least 75 units within a 500-mile radius from East Baton Rouge Parish.
Are you going to be the next mayor of Baton Rouge?
I would hope so. I think that I have all of the qualification, capability, and determination, and also I have the desire. I've served in local government. I've served in state government. I've had leadership positions in both levels. I've learned my job very well with the help of a lot of other people, and I would find it very challenging. I would make a good mayor.
Delpit is candid about his political ambitions. He is equally open about his personal ambitions.
I will never be a Rockefeller, I'm convinced of that, but I would hope at the age of 53, 54 that I will have reached a position of being a very comfortable millionaire. I was very fond of Colonel Sanders because he started his business when he was 78 years of age off of his first Social Security check. And if that man at that age was able to do so very much with marketing his business, and with the experience and the age that I am now, that there's no telling ours is unlimited.
The original Chicken Shack restaurant was founded by Delpit's father. He feels the business was an excellent training ground for the political arena.
The two jobs complement each other. As an elected official, I find myself giving service to my constituents, and being raised up in this chicken shack, my father demanded that we give service to the customers, so it was nothing that I had to learn. I was always, and I'm still very modest as it relates to dealing with my constituents. Sometimes I get angry and blow my cool and have a temper, I suppose, like everybody else, and especially when people sometimes forget that my name is not Jesus, it's Joe, and that bothers me. But I try, even though they come with some impossible requests sometimes.
What's the greatest challenge you've ever faced?
Well, the greatest challenge that I guess I've ever faced is the confidence that people seem to put in me, and I find it challenging to attempt to meet their expectations. And I found even with my friends who pushed me to run for office, I wondered why. I didn't have the confidence that they had at first, and I wondered why, why me? And I find it very challenging once people entrust me with certain kinds of objectives and things and goals that we should reach. I find it's not just for me, it's for a lot of people, and it's challenging for me to succeed in them, for all of us.
Is that faith sometimes a heavy cross to bear?
It is. It is.
A newspaper feature story described you as being a bad little boy in your youth. Is there still some of the child there? Are you still somewhat the bad little boy?
I think so. I think it's in all of us. The older we get, I guess, we start coming back to that. But it's with a great intensity as it relates to more just of relaxing than it is of being like I was, very mischievous. I find myself enjoying putting pranks on my big sister, and even playing with my kids and my wife and my friends, just doing silly things sometimes. I enjoy that.
At different times in your career, you've been called a stinker, a saint, a character, a man of the people. How would you describe Joe Delpit?
Well, I would think of myself as a person that really care about other people. And I have my own very strong religious beliefs about different assignments that God has given us here on earth, and I tried to carry out my assignment, and I just like to consider myself a child of God working for God.
A revealing perspective of Delpit. This showed many sides of his personality: a tough politician, an ambitious businessman, as well as a concerned father and spiritually aware person, seemingly very concerned about fairness.
Our next story features a class act, an opera singer from Louisiana and a classical pianist who has performed with many of the nation's leading orchestras. I present to you the remarkable talents of tenor Clarence Carter and his accompanist, Wilfred Delphin. Clarence Carter is a native New Orleanian. He received his Bachelor of Music degree from Xavier University in New Orleans and his master's from Southern Illinois University. But Carter's interest in singing began long before his college days.
First of all, I was always interested in singing. As a child, I sang in the Catholic boys choir in the church. When I got to high school, I sang in high school productions. I think my greatest inspiration as a factor in deciding music as a career for me was a performance done by the world-renowned soprano Leontine Price in 1967, if I remember correctly. I was privileged to be at this performance, and it inspired me to choose music as a career.
Carter currently lives in Switzerland, where he performs with an opera company.
I was engaged in the theater as a chorus singer. After my first year, I began to receive solo parts. I'm still singing in the chorus, but for next season, I'm scheduled to do 4 solo roles, which I'm very pleased about. It's giving me an opportunity to branch out slowly, which is the way I wanted to do it, into solo repertoire, as opposed to full-fledged solo repertoire as my first engagement.
Carter's accompanist for this recital at Southern University was Wilfred Delphin, part of the dual piano team Delphin and Romaine.
Growing up in a small town like I did, we didn't have the advantage of hearing people like Miss Price. So for me, I suppose music was the result of our church choir needing a pianist to play. My aunt had played all before I came along, and there was nobody to take over for her. So that was one immediate reason. But then I really never, in those early days, considered going into a professional career as a performer. I always wanted to be a college teacher, and I wanted to teach music, but to teach primarily. It was only well after I graduated from undergraduate school, Xavier, over in New Orleans, that I decided to pair off with Edwin Romaine and pursue a career as a duo pianist.
Delphin has performed with many of the country's leading orchestras, including the New Orleans Philharmonic, the Atlanta Symphony, and the New York Philharmonic. He has also given recitals in the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and the White House.
Back at Xavier, when that was my first opportunity to see and hear traveling artists. I mean, we'd go to the symphony there, or we'd go to different recital series. And it always seemed like something so dreamlike, so far beyond what what was ever in my vision to want to do. And then when it turns out that you are actually able to do those things yourself, you realize, on the one hand, that you can do it just like anybody else can do it, so then it becomes a very real thing. And I mean, the fact that you've played at Carnegie Hall once doesn't mean so much anymore. You want to go back and play a 3rd and 4th time, or the fact that you've played with some symphony once doesn't mean that much, because you've done it once and you know that the opportunity is there. So you want to go back, you want to be a part of their regular subscription roster. So there's a lot of personal satisfaction that you get from having done those things, but then you realize that it was never really that unattainable in the first place. All you have to do is work hard and get some good breaks.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Awesome, really great talent. Next week on Folks, Genevieve will have a report on journalist Ed Bradley of 60 Minutes fame, and I'll share with you some exciting art from the Harlem Renaissance. That's next week. We hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.